Thank you, Dean Reed, members of the faculty, family and friends, and most importantly, the class of 2019. It's an amazing honor for me to be here today. But first, let me address a few thoughts that I'm sure are going through many of your heads right now. I'm $80,000 in debt and my school can't even afford a full-grown human to give the commencement speech. Is this some kind of scam or what? No, but seriously, I'd like to begin by repeating a few things that I'm sure you've already heard. Your education has been one big, huge waste of time. That you're all going into a dying industry. Or how about this one, that journalism's dead? You've all heard this before, right? And how can you blame people for thinking this? It seems like everywhere we turn, we see bad news about the news. Like how newspapers are forced to close, and the ones that have managed to stay open have to slash their staffs. A week doesn't go by where someone doesn't tell me I should just find another job. You know, one with a future. And I'm only 12. What does this mean for all of you washed up 20-somethings? To the 2019 graduating class, you face a daunting task. There will be those just waiting for you to fail, and others who believed you were doomed before even earning your first byline. Ignore them. They're wrong. There is another path. But getting there won't be easy. As someone who's developed a devoted readership that spans all across the world, I have a few ideas on how we can create a bridge to that future. And if it's okay, right now I'd like to share some of the tips and tricks I learned along the way. 1. Keep your leads tight. If you're going to ask people to dedicate even a sliver of their time to reading the stories that you've written, you need to respect your reader. See, words on screens are usually in shades of black on white, but life is full of bright colors. Life isn't boring. Don't let your writing be. Remember, if it's taking you 200 words to get to the meat of your story, then no one, and I mean no one, is going to get to the main course, much less the dessert. 2, talk to real people. Politicians and law enforcement can be great sources of information, but my best stories never came from a press release. They came from me, biking around my hometown, talking to the real people. These are the small business owners, the group of old people at the coffee shop, or even your neighbor raking leaves. It's here, buried in the nosy lady at the church dinner, where the real nuggets of gold can be found. Real people have real stories, and if you take the time to listen, you'd be amazed at what the real everyday people know. 3, trust no one. Sometimes when working on a story, you will come into a situation where 2 people are telling you different versions of the same event, and you'll be wondering which person you should trust. The answer? Don't trust either of the people. Everyone lies, even good people, and sometimes without even knowing it. Sometimes cops lie, sometimes law enforcement lie, and yes, sometimes even the real everyday people lie. That's why it's important to have your loyalty not to any one personality, but to the truth, and only the truth. Follow the facts, trust no one. 4, get away from your desk. So many reporters I know just sit at desks all day, waiting for the story to come to them or refreshing their emails. The best reporters I know aren't checking their inbox. They go and find the story. As publisher, editor, and the only reporter at the Orange Street News, I don't have an assignment editor. I have to generate my own story ideas. That's why, after waking up at 4:30 in the morning, the first thing I do is run a mile. I really try to be part of my community. I go to the local coffee shops, I shop with local stores. How can you be part of a community from an office? That sounds like fraud to me. Don't just sit at your desk waiting for the stories to come to you. Get out into your world. And I promise you, the more time you spend exploring the world, the more stories will find you. 5, always bring a pencil. Pens stop working when it gets cold outside. I learned this one the hard way. 6, don't forget who you work for. After I was first to break a story of a homicide in my hometown, another reporter told me that they had the story too, but the police had told them not to report it. So they didn't. I was only 9, but I think I threw up in my mouth. I knew even at that age, a reporter doesn't work for the police. A reporter works for the people. You are reporters. You don't work for the police, you don't work for the government. You work for the people. And if you can recognize that, then the people will work for you. 7, ignore the comments. I know this one can be tricky, and I also know that most of you are going to ignore this advice, at least at first. But trust me, don't read the comments. They only make you feel bad about yourself and bad about the world. 8, don't forget a reporter's superpower. Reporting is about getting the truth to the people. How do we get to the truth? The same way reporters have gotten to the truth for years. By answering 6 sacred questions of journalism. Who, what, where, when, why, how. Look, everyone wants to change the world. But a reporter's armed with the most persuasive tool in the world. The facts. That's why a fair reporter can inspire far more than even the best opinion columnists in the world. Readers are smart. More often than not, when given the right facts, they'll come to the right conclusions. That's the power of truth, the power of facts. And that is the real superpower of a reporter. Which leads me to my next point. 9, don't mix politics and reporting. I believe that the future has never been brighter for journalists. I mean, think about it. Has there ever been a time where more people wanted or needed the news than right now? Because of the internet, people from all around the world can access any information at any time from the screen of their smartphone. This isn't a good thing. This is a great thing. Each one of these people is a potential subscriber to the Orange Street News. But I know what all the skeptics say. Newspapers might get online readers, but they still don't make any money. To answer that claim, I'd like to point them to the only newspaper that exclusively delivers to the people of Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania. I'm proud to say that the newspaper I publish, the Orange Street News, does make a profit. I do this while also posting all of my stories online for free and without accepting paid advertisement. In fact, my print subscribers pay enough for me to cover all of my expenses, including printing along with upgrades. How? Well, first I keep my expenses low. But more importantly, I never stop working hard to get good stories. I know that as soon as I stop getting good scoops that are important to the people will stop buying the Orange Street News. It isn't complicated, but that's how it should be. But the skeptics aren't all wrong. There is a crisis in media. But the crisis we are facing isn't one of losses in revenue or shrinking newsrooms. The crisis we are facing is one of trust. Too many people don't trust what they're reading anymore. And if you're wondering how we got to this point, look no further than our current generation of reporters. Too many of them have strayed from the basics I knew at age 6. That reporting was about finding the answers to those 6 questions, and instead, too many of today's reporters have mixed journalism with some sort of theater, a disgusting kind of entertainment that seeks to divide people along political lines to fulfill whatever bias they might feel or generate page clicks or whatever. Don't believe me? Pull up your favorite reporter's Twitter account, spend even 2 minutes scrolling through their feed, then ask yourself, if the other 50% of the country who doesn't agree with their political opinions is going to believe a single word of their reporting. These so-called reporters spend so much time trying to divide us, they don't realize they've become nothing more but noise. You see, by mixing the news with their political opinions, they've created 2 different medias. As a result, you're inheriting a world where people are more increasingly only talking to themselves or to people who already think the same way. And without new information, how can people grow? That's why I'm very careful to keep my political opinions to myself. I know that as soon as I lose the trust of my reader, I might as well find another job. But as long as I have that trust, I can keep growing. And so will you. These reporters who spend their time dividing us, not reporting facts, they aren't the future. In fact, they're about to be the past. They're dinosaurs and they're all going extinct. I say good riddance. They've had their time and it's over. We are the generation that can restore the people's trust. See, we aren't the pro-Trump reporters, we aren't the anti-Trump reporters, we aren't the right-wing reporters, and we aren't the left-wing reporters. We are the generation that will be known simply as reporters. That's a trust I guard with my life. And so should you. As you move forward, it should be your most important currency. To the 2019 graduating class, you're moments away from beginning a new life in the world, the beginning of your professional life. It's up to each and every one of you to change that narrative, to declare that we are the generation who can restore the people's trust and have our loyalty to one thing and one thing only, to the truth, to uncovering corruption wherever you find it. In just a few minutes, you're graduating. You're moments away from embarking on the most noble of professions, that of a reporter. It won't be easy and you won't make a lot of money. And if you're great at your job, you will be despised by more people than you can possibly imagine. But if you keep your lead short, talk to real people, trust no one, get away from your desk, always bring a pencil, don't forget who you work for, ignore the comments, remember your superpower, rise above the temptation to infuse your writing with politics, and most importantly of all, stay laser focused on the truth. If you do these things, I believe that history will look back on this moment not as the last dark days before the profession of journalism died, but as a new beginning, when this generation, the class of 2019, didn't just save the news, but ushered it into a new golden era of fact-based information that shines a light so bright it touched every corner of the globe. A media based on truth, on those timeless 6 questions. Who, what, where, when, why, how. Thank you.